One Oko deck in the hands of Dylan Hand, playing Sultai Wurza, taking on Aaron Barich. Aaron with a spicy one, Golgari Yawgmoth. You familiar with this deck, Craig?
I don't know what that means.
Okay. Let me hand you this deck list. I will allow you to get familiar with it. Aaron has been streaming with this deck. She's done very well with it in a bunch of online tournaments, those preliminary events, plenty of leagues under her belt now with Golgari Yawgmoth, starting to make this into a contender for sure. Both players leading with Mana Accelerants. Noble Hierarch for Aaron. Gilded Goose for Dylan Hand.
This is...
What do you think, Craig? What's your opinion?
There are a lot of cards in this deck.
There are.
Maybe even 60 of them.
Yeah, 60 cards.
Yeah,
Good
wow.
point.
Yep.
Many of them with redundant ways to stay on the battlefield. There you see Modern All-Star, Young Wolf, 1/1 Undying. If it dies, comes back as a 2/2.
Yeah, let's dial that one up, Young Wolf. It's been a minute.
Saw a little bit of play during his time in Standard. Occasionally has shown up in some shells that take advantage of sacrificing bodies. Maybe Birthing Pod decks flirted with this card for a moment. If you want to take a look at what these players are working with, you can head over to Cardboard Live. See Aaron's full list. Meanwhile, Dylan going to go ahead and put some artifacts onto the battlefield. Arkham's Astrolabe, Mishra's Bauble. Second Bauble for Dylan Hand.
Yeah, Aaron really just trying to leverage Yawgmoth to the absolute maximum with all these various Undying creatures.
There you see our friend, Young Wolf. 1/1 Undying.
I don't know, I look at this list and I feel like if your Yawgmoth gets turned into an elk, you're not super competitive.
Certainly, it's the focal point of the deck. By far, the most powerful card. A lot of ways to find it, though, Craig. 4 Chord of Calling, 4 Once Upon a Time, 4 Eldritch Evolution. You should be able to keep that card in play.
Fair.
It's like Dylan without a second land here. Not great on his side. Aaron, meanwhile, makes a third land drop.
Yeah, with Dylan missing a land drop and Aaron having the Mana Accelerant, you know, I hope she has a big play, and she does.
Yeah, there is the namesake card. It's Yawgmoth. But Dylan at the ready with Metallic Rebuke. Cash in that food with the Gilded Goose. Tap a couple artifacts.
Man.
Slows down the big play from Aaron.
I mean, all these little changes. The Wurza deck is just, it's such a good package.
There you see Yawgmoth, Thran Physician from Modern Horizons, of course, another Modern Horizons All-Star.
I wonder if Protection from Humans got put in there while the Humans deck was like one of the biggest decks running around.
Yeah, you kind of assume so. Meanwhile, Dylan continues to spin his wheels. No second land still.
And we know that all of these Modern Horizon cards are your favorites because they've got such clean text boxes.
They're just good, wholesome Magic cards, Greg. They're out here to do a job. Can Aaron produce another Yawgmoth? Once you have that Yawgmoth in play, you basically get to do what you want. Draw all the cards you need as long as your life total supports it.
Yeah, it looks like Aaron's working with an Eldritch Evolution and a Chord of Calling. She needs to put herself in a position to, you know, hopefully get that Yawgmoth on the board next turn.
Yeah, here's Strangleroot Geist, another one of those Undying creatures. 2/1 haste for 2 green. Dylan finds a second land. Casts a Mox Opal. Now he's going to look to get it to some Urza-based shenanigans. Dylan returning to War of Invention this week. It's a card that's kind of fallen out of favor in these lists.
Okay, he's working with the full Thopter sword combo. One copy of the sword, one copy of the Thopter, couple Word of Inventions to put the pieces together.
What do you think about that decision, Craig? How does that particular portion of the Urza package fare in the format right now?
Well, I appreciate that it actually closes out games quickly.
Sure.
It's probably not necessary. Like, each of those cards just aren't very strong on their own. So there's just this argument of just playing all cards that are always good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, together, they're super powerful and just close out the game.
Well, guess who it is, Craig? It is Oko, Thief of Crowns, entering the battlefield. There you see Yawgmoth, Duran Physician. Dylan Hand going to take a look at that one. Why don't we read it, too? 2 colorless, black, protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature. Put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature and draw a card. So you get a couple of your Undying creatures going. Bounce those counters around. Draw as many cards as you want. Can do a little proliferating if you so choose. A lot of options for Yawgmoth, Duran Physician.
There's so much text.
Dylan carefully considering what to do with this Oko. It's like it's going to make some Elks. Noble Hierarch becomes a 3/3 Elk, and Aaron's going to take the turn back. Takes a draw.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Dylan went that route and didn't make a defensive Elk of his own.
Well, here's Eldritch Evolution. That's going to go ahead, sacrifice Stranglerootgeist. It comes back, and we can go get Yawgmoth, Duran Physician. What kind of shenanigans can Aaron get up to now?
Yeah, it just felt like on Aaron's turn, just about anything she played was going to open her up to get the Oko off of the board.
Yep. Aaron says, I'm going to do this thing. They will bounce back and forth. We'll draw cards. Now can convert life to cards. Here's Chord of Calling.
Okay, so she's converting she's negating the +1/+1 counters with the -1/-1
Correct.
counters.
That is correct. Chord of Calling is going to go get Blood Artist.
And
Blood Artist is going to stay in play while this combo keeps repeating. That's going to turn it into a drain, and Dylan Hand is going to lose the game. Aaron Barich up 1-0.
okay.
What'd you think of that, Greg? That's your first experience with this Golgari Yawgmoth deck?
It is.
Any takeaways, having seen it in action now? Impressed?
It still feels very vulnerable to me, where it feels like the onus is on Aaron to win the turn that Yawgmoth hits the board, because Oko's just always going to turn it into a 3/3, or it'll get bounced with something. And even getting it onto the board feels difficult in the face of Cryptic Commands and Metallic Rebukes and everything like that.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of redundancy in the deck, many ways to find Yawgmoth. Once Yawgmoth is on the battlefield, it usually becomes pretty trivial to win from that spot, assuming you have done the Undying setup in the earlier turns. I am curious to see how this matchup plays out, though, and it's now going to happen with the benefit of sideboard cards. Why don't we start over on Dylan Hand's side? We are looking at 3 Fatal Push, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Veil of Summer, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Abrupt Decay, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Pithy Needle, Ensnaring Bridge, Assassin's Trophy. Craig, if you are on Dylan's side, what are you looking to do?
So I think some of the more expensive cards that we see out of these Sultai decks can all be cut. I think he's playing just kind of a control game where all of his better cards slowly overwhelm the board. So if I'm on Dylan's side, I don't think I want the Thopter Foundry and the Sword of the Meek. And if I'm cutting those 2 cards, I probably want to be cutting the Word of Inventions as well. And so now I'm opening up a portion of my deck to sideboard a significant amount. The Grafdigger's Cage just looks spectacular to me. It prevents the creatures from coming back from the graveyard. That's super important. And then I can see just a lot of this efficient spot removal, the Fatal Pushes, maybe the Assassin's Trophy, in order to get some of these creatures off of the board while I'm controlling things.
Yeah, I want to pick up that pithing needle too. Name
Sure.
Yawgmoth, shut that down.
100%.
Meanwhile, over on Aaron's side, we are looking at 2 Veil of Summer, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Damping Sphere, a Thrashing Brontodon, 1 Plague Engineer, 1 Obstinate Baloth, a Phyrexian Revoker, a Reclamation Sage, an Abrupt Decay, Yixlid Jailer, Kitchen Finks, and an Assassin's Trophy. A lot of one-of creatures there.
Yep.
Makes sense when you have a big tutor package.
Yeah, Erin has all of those tutors, and I think she's going to be pretty generous with the amount of cards that she sides in here. The Veil of Summer obviously lines up great against a black, green, blue deck that's looking to both remove your cards and counter them. So that's going to come in, and then, Erin, looking at the sideboard, obviously she knows people are going to have ways to interact with the graveyard, a lot of artifacts out there, enchantments, and she needs ways to fight those. So I expect a decent smattering of like Thrashing Brontodon, Reclamation Sage, maybe the Abrupt Decay, things like that, all coming into the deck in order to play a little grindier of a game and answer all of the hate cards out of the opponent's deck.
I know you're just getting your feet wet when it comes to this deck. Do you have a sense of who gains the advantage in post-board games? Is there anyone you like more in this matchup?
So just knowing how much Magic that Erin plays, I can't imagine that this deck goes from being like, let's say, 50, 60% game 1, if that's the way she feels it is, to suddenly being 40% in games 2 and 3. She just wouldn't show up with that deck. So I would think that it still has a very robust game plans in game 2 and 3.
Makes sense to me. Well, it's early in our season here on the SCG Tour. Obviously, we just had our Players' Championship. We're starting a new year, but I will tell you, Craig, it's never too early to make sure you are qualified for the Invitational. Of course, you can do that at one of our Invitational qualifiers, exclusive prizes. You get a G to the top 8. Of course, you get that crucial Invitational qualification. And don't forget those SCG points, very important if you want to pick up those buys, make your way to the top of the leaderboard, and that beautiful playmat. What's that called again, Craig? We talked about this before. That is an awesome
playmat. You know what that playmat is called. I was told that you were the one who submitted the idea for this artwork to the Star City creative team.
So I'm very dumb, and I did not understand this playmat at first, but it has been explained to me, and I have the name. It's called Unexpected View.
Sure.
Because it's supposed to portray another, I guess, is this Sleeping Beauty or Snow White? This would be Snow White, right, with the poison apple?
Yes.
Does Sleeping Beauty also have a poison apple?
She pricked herself on the spinning wheel, didn't she?
Yeah, there's some, or like some thorns or roses or something like that.
No, it's the spinning wheel, I'm pretty sure. But either way, we're calling this Snow White.
Okay.
And she is the one delivering the poison apple now, looking down on you.
Unexpected, Craig, just like this Unexpected View playmat. Check that out. Go to starcitygames.com/IQ.
Somehow she got a horse with the bones on the outside of its body.
Well, that's smart. They're easy to repair that way.
I hadn't considered that.
I get all of my horses with the bones on the outside. It's just good business. Gilded Goose is the play for Dylan Hand.
And there's the apple.
Apple coming.
Look at that. It all comes together.
Mm-hmm. Nice job, SCG, reusing that art asset. Very smart.
Brian, you're a genius.
I try. Really, I make it up as I go and occasionally get lucky, but as long as it looks like I know what's going on, that's what's really important. Looks like Erin going to lead on Overgrown Tomb tapped, or are we just waiting on the play? Let's see.
It looked tapped,
yeah. Tapped. Interesting. This deck seems like a deck that would be very reliant on having a 1-drop.
Oh, I kind of disagree. It doesn't play that many mana accelerants.
No, that's true.
And
that's true.
The 1-drops are largely to make your loop happen with Yawgmoth, and so it doesn't matter when it comes down. It's not like the turn 1 Young Wolf pressures the opponent's life total.
Right. Yeah, actually, there's a surprisingly low number of accelerants. We saw Noble Hierarch there, but there's only 1 copy of the card in Erin's deck, so not a huge portion of the game plan. Yeah, this is a tough spot to play from. So Oko came down, Erin forced to burn Assassin's Trophy on the Oko. It's an answer, but Dylan's deck very poised to take advantage of that acceleration.
Yeah, the Urza decks are like, that's the one place where I hope that they're squeezed is on their mana, because all of the cards are just so good and cycle into other cards. and giving them that, like, obviously Aaron's right to, you got to get the Oko off of the board. The food is too important with the Goose, and just the 3/3s are going to start pressuring Aaron right away. But that extra mana is always huge for this deck. And it looks like he has left the Thopter Sword combo in his deck.
Yeah, and I think he may have both pieces of it right now. Or that's a Pithing Needle. Not entirely sure what the second card is. Certainly a Thopter Foundry in hand. We're going to lead on Emery. It's going to drop 4 friends off in the graveyard. Among them, Mox Opal.
Every card I look at, I'm just like, how is this a card? How is this okay?
It's fine, Greg. Everything's fine. Here's a Thopter Foundry. Cast with the help of that Gilded Goose. And the turn just going to pass back to Aaron now.
And the Thopter Foundry is often a card you don't want to expose to the opponent. But Dylan's in this position where he has Emery and the Thopter Foundry. And so it's like, all right, you're not going to be able to kill both of these in the same turn.
Yeah, this is one of the challenging parts about accounting for this Urza deck. Able to rebuild very effectively, able to protect its permanence very effectively, able to generate card advantage, able to counter your spells. Infinite combos. There's Birds of Paradise. There are 4 copies of that one.
You have 4 birds, 1 Noble Herrick. And as bad as this game has developed for Aaron so far, if Dylan doesn't have any disruption and Dylan's plan is just to attack with 2 or 3 or, you know, some number of Thopters every single turn,
that's not going to get the job done.
It is a slow route that gives Aaron a lot of time to find her infinite loop.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron can just play like Young Wolf, Yawgmoth on the next turn and draw as many as she has life for and probably find a win from there. I do see a Metallic Rebuke in Dylan's hand, though. So that should offer some protection. There's Sword of the Meek, so that option is now online. Gilded Goose follow-up. We're going to head back to Aaron's turn. Dylan with Rebuke at the ready. Strong position for Dylan hand. Can Aaron find a way through it? I see Chord of Calling. Going to start by playing a Swamp. Yawgmoth also in hand for Aaron. Obviously fearing what that 1 blue mana represents from Dylan hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny, as I've been keeping an eye on the modern format and how it's become just slowly more and more inbred, you know, it makes me wonder if Veil of Summer is this potentially main deckable card at some point.
A lot of blue cards floating around right now. It's almost strange that that hasn't been the step, given how things have developed.
Well, part of me is like, oh, like Mystical Dispute could be this main deckable card, but you already have Metallic Rebuke, which is a 1 mana counter something for 3 such a high percentage of the time already that you don't want those Mystical Disputes in your main deck.
So it looks like Aaron just going to pass the turn here. Maybe see if Dylan uses that mana.
Yeah, and if I'm on Dylan's side, I don't think I could pass it up.
Dylan's debating. This could potentially present a window for Aaron to go ahead and cast Chord of Calling, but ultimately Dylan's going to pass. I think correctly so.
Yeah, the very patient play here.
Draws an extra card from the bauble.
But it's the same thing. You're actually, you know, not getting any extra pressure on the board. And each turn, Aaron's a little closer to being able to pay for that Mystical Dispute.
Yeah, Aaron looking to put Dylan in the squeeze, as I like to call it.
Ooh, the old bauble fetch land.
Looks like Dylan did not like the top card. Going to go ahead and do a little fetching.
Just the whole deck is these little interactions that add just fractional value along the way.
Thinking about getting a Mystic Sanctuary for a rebuy on nothing, I think, which is why we passed on that. just going to be another island. Folks who watch Craig and I often know that when you have high actions per turn, it presents chances to take advantage of those small interactions like bauble, fetch land, and this deck has the highest actions per turn in the entire format.
Oh, and it's just extra fun for the other player.
Yep. Yeah, you love seeing your opponent take a fast 10-minute turn. That's just the pinnacle of Magic.
Yep.
They're acting quickly, still going to take 10 minutes. So now we see Aaron going to go ahead and attempt Chord of Calling on Dylan's end step. Looks like Chord for 3 here. And if you're Dylan, I mean, you just have to counter here. You can't take the risk. You don't know what this is going to reveal.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit of a bait, quite frankly.
I was going to say, I think it feels that way, like I have to counter this spell. But on the flip side, the Chord for 3, you kind of have to go into the tank there and be like, is 3
What
the
does it
number?
actually do?
Yeah, it's 3 the number I'm worried about here.
Yeah, and I think the answer was it would have done pretty little. I don't see anything particularly game-breaking that Aaron could have grabbed. But now, shields may be down. And let's see what Aaron could do with a Yawgmoth on the table, potentially.
There are some cards that Aaron, I don't know if they're in the deck, but you know, something like a Plague Engineer or a Yixla Jailer would each shut down the Thopter Sword combo.
Okay. Here's another option to shut down Thopter Sword combo. Phyrexian Revoker is going to be the lead from Aaron. That's going to lead to Dylan making a bunch of Thopter tokens. Now does Aaron have
It looks
an
like
additional land?
4. If I'm Dylan, I almost want to sacrifice that food as well.
Revoker has named Thopter Foundry, and now the follow-up from Aaron is going to be Galroff's Messenger. Been a minute since we saw that card. Standard staple, of course. Yeah. Enters the battlefield. Tap. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 2 life, 3/2 Undying for 3 black. This is a powerful Magic card. It feels somewhat outmoded given how things have evolved over time, but when you're using it as part of your infinite combo, I'm on board.
Yeah, this is another one with Yawgmoth where you can just bring it back over and over, and so if you start at a higher life total than the opponent, you have your 2 Undying creatures and Yawgmoth, you can drain them out 2 at a time.
Yeah. And Aaron's going to have that set up next turn, assuming Dylan has no interaction. Dylan going to go ahead and fetch here. Very vulnerable spot for Dylan hand. Finds Mystic Sanctuary.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you can rebuy that Metallic Rebuke.
Is going to do so.
But the game has played out. 1, now the opponent knows about it, and 2, Aaron is very close to just being able to resolve spells through it.
Getting close, but there is pressure on the battlefield for Dylan, of course, in the form of that Thopter Sword combo. It's not working anymore, but it has made 4 Thopters already. Emery continuing to do its thing.
This is the best deck. The Sultai, not necessarily Sultai, but the Urza decks, Oko, Urza. Looking at the battlefield, it makes my stomach turn at some points where it's just so many different permanents to keep track of.
So the turn has gone back to Aaron. Did Dylan have a bauble trigger for this turn? Is the Rebuke now in his hand?
Yeah, so he drew the Rebuke off of an Astrolabe.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense.
But that's another thing is that, like, even bauble, you got to keep track of so many things.
Yeah, Aaron's going to fire off Yawgmoth here, and Dylan has a Cryptic command at the ready, going to go ahead and bounce Phyrexian Revoker.
And that is a little surprising to me that he didn't
just use the rebuke when he had the chance.
Yeah. You know,
we're going to use Rebuke on Phyrexian Revoker.
But to me, those Revokers are kind of a non-factor. Like as the game plays out, Dylan can still generate a bunch of food and sacrifice each turn to keep his life total robust.
Right.
And he has the clock on the board with the flyers already. I'm just a little surprised.
I'm a little surprised too. I mean, I guess we're trying to get Erin's life total low enough that she can't effectively utilize Yawgmoth.
Sure.
But it still feels like there's a long way to go until that's the case. Bauble going to come back from Emery.
Maybe. I feel like it's not that long of a way to go. But
so if Erin takes 5 here and gets to look at 8 cards off the top of the library on the next turn.
Yeah, the question is the turn after that. So Dylan played this aggressive route where he like to me, I would have sat on the counterspell and saved it for one key spell.
Sure.
But he might be saying, I'm just going to shave as many turns off of this clock as possible.
Okay.
You know, I think with his Thopter Sword online now, this is Erin's last draw step.
Yeah, and here's a Yawgmoth. I think given the way Erin played the last turn, it was pretty certain that this was going to be in her hand.
Sure, yeah. I mean, she was definitely ready for the first one just to be countered.
And what is going to be the response to this Yawgmoth?
Oh.
Whir of Invention.
Pithing Needle time.
Yeah. That was a big find for Dylan. Pithing Needle is going to come down. Assuming that is naming Yawgmoth. Has been confirmed. And that is going to elicit the scoop. I think that was an extremely, extremely vulnerable turn for Dylan. Found the key Whir of Invention on that draw step. But otherwise, I don't know how that one would have played out.
Yeah, it was a pretty aggressive line with his counterspells there.
Yeah. Ultimately got the victory, though, and that means we're going to be headed to a decided Game 3 between Dylan Hand and Erin Barich. This has been a fun little matchup. Not exactly what I was expecting to see when we came here today.
Sure, I always like it when we have Erin on camera because she does not play just the most stock deck. She loves going rogue, and she's put time into the decks so they're polished. They look like competitive level decks.
Yeah, I really enjoy her approach to play here on the SCG Tour. Always something fresh from Erin Barich. I often give her credit as the person I turn to when I want to know what aggressive deck is good in Standard specifically.
Yeah, she's well known for playing the aggressive decks, but I mean, she seems to enjoy doing stuff like this as well.
For sure.
At the Invitational in Pioneer, she played, what's that crazy red enchantment?
Possibility Storm.
Possibility Storm. I love that type of stuff.
Yeah. That deck just took down a Modern Challenge, or excuse me, Pioneer Challenge over on Magic Online. Starting to look like it may have some legs. Of course, over on the other side of the table, you see Dylan Hand. Dylan, a fixture here on the SCG Tour. 25 years old from Southampton, Massachusetts. For now, I believe he is about to move, though, headed out to Milwaukee. Congratulations to Dylan Hand. 6 top 8s all time.
Wait.
Series.
You need to tell us why he's moving to Milwaukee. It can't just be like, hey, I'm moving to Milwaukee. Congratulations.
Why? What's wrong with Milwaukee? Milwaukee's a nice place.
But you could have said that about anywhere. Is there a place he would have been moving to where you would have been like, well, that's too bad?
I would have said that about Albany, New York, only because I come from there.
Yeah.
So I can trash that with impunity.
Okay,
basically.
that's a small window.
No, we're going to get to spend some more time with his significant other. Very
Yes.
happy to see Dylan Hand reconnect. Like I said, 6 open top 8s, graduated college with his degree in informatics from UMass. What does that even mean, Craig? What does that consist of?
Informatics.
Yeah.
Informatics.
Are you familiar with that particular field?
Yeah, but I mean, Brian, this would just go over your head.
Okay. Yeah, you could skip it then.
Yeah.
That's fine. As we mentioned, Dylan, well known for playing humans here on the SCG Tour. Stepped away from that deck. Probably correct in doing so.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this a little bit off camera, how it's not easy just to bounce around in decks. There's a financial barrier there.
Yeah.
And there's just it takes time to get very good with a particular deck. And so there's a cost when you say, I'm not going to play this deck anymore, I'm going to play something completely different. You're not going to sit down with that new deck and just play perfectly the first time through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Well, Craig, if you cannot get enough of the SCG Tour,
I can't.
Like all of us, you know, you could always head over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/StarCityGames, and not only will you get to watch our matches that we cover on repeat, as I'm sure so many people do, because they just can't get enough of our witty banter and biting insight, but also you get to see the Versus Live series, Commander Versus, there's the flashback matches, so much more over on our YouTube page. Check that out, youtube.com/StarCityGames.
Cedric was always excited about the unboxings.
Okay.
Do we still do that? Is that?
I have no idea.
I'm getting someone saying no, we don't do the unboxings. And he used to message me and be like, "Hey, bro,
This is an opportunity, Craig.
yeah,
for
don't miss out on the unboxing."
Maybe if there's a hole in the unboxing market, it's for you to step up and fill it. Just do a bunch of unboxings. Come to my house. I have a bunch of boxes just sitting around.
I was going to say, maybe if I knew someone who had a big platform already that wanted to sponsor these unboxings.
Interesting.
You know, I would slap my name on it and their name on it and open their product and then keep their product, and everyone's happy.
I say go out there, look around for a big Magic YouTube page, maybe like something like the Arena Decklist YouTube page, maybe. I don't know.
You're just going to plug your own page.
No, it's just an example.
Shameless.
No, it's just an example.
I was just trying to dance around it a little bit.
Okay.
And there it is. No subtlety with you.
It's just an example, Craig.
What was it called? The Arena
Deck Lists. Arena Deck Lists, Craig.
Okay.
Would you like me to spell that for you? Or?
And that's a YouTube page, you said?
There is a YouTube page, yeah.
Man.
It's a lot of things, but...
Have you guys considered expanding into like a podcast or something?
Maybe someday, Craig, when the moment's right.
Okay. I'll be waiting for it.
When the moment's right. Maybe a Twitter page, who knows? World's our oyster. Dylan, unfortunately, hit with a case of the mulligans here. Looks like we're headed down to 5 presently.
A Twitter page.
Is it called a Twitter page?
I don't
Twitter
know.
account?
Yeah, I don't know.
Twitter handle?
Like, I never... You know, you're not like, I'm going to go to this person's Twitter page.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, I'm going to comment on the one tweet that I saw show up from this person. I don't care about anything else they said, and I'm angry.
Right.
Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's always a 10.
Constant 10s.
Yeah.
Constant 10s.
I mean, social media has... It's been a gift to all of us, is what it has been.
Look, not to get too deep into it, it brings a lot of good into our lives. It really does. There are many people I have connected with solely through social media who I now count as friends, and I have access to people all over the world, and I feel like my worldview has brought in because of social media. But, yeah, there's some downsides.
There's some problem spots here and there.
There are.
An occasional negative to it.
Yeah. So Dylan is going to be on 5, but Urza decks can effectively mulligan. When your power level is so high for your individual cards, totally reasonable to slam an Urza and go to town.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Erin feeling like she had to get that turn 2 Oko off of the board. And so Dylan is still going to have a lot of hands that'll have similar starts to that.
Right. It's like trying to put one together here. 5 cards for Dylan. Erin with a full grip and going to cast everyone's free cantrip, everyone's favorite free cantrip.
It's
once upon a time.
legal?
It is, believe it or not.
Why?
In this format, it's still legal. I don't think it's as egregious in this format as the other ones, but like, that's a pretty low bar because it was bonkers in both Standard and Pioneer.
Could be as egregious. Like, if the format wasn't all like,
maybe
Oko.
Yeah, maybe that's the next step. Who knows? Strangleroot Geist going to get on the beatdown plan, backed up by a plant token.
Yeah, a little offense, little defense.
Yeah, from Colony Garden. And Dylan Hand just plain lands on your first 2 turns. As the Urza deck, not how you want to start. Strangleroot Geist beats down once more. Blooming Marsh, Yawgmoth.
Oof.
Dylan says, yep. Can't do anything about that. And this game's getting out of control real quickly. Double fetch here for Dylan. Erin thinking about whether she wants to respond. Looks like we've gotten the green light now.
Okay, and a little advanced rules
Okay,
here.
we're responding to the first fetch.
Even if you pick up both your fetch lands and put them in the graveyard at the same time, the rules are such that you are cracking these one at a time.
Correct.
Unless you otherwise specify it.
Aaron going to use this opportunity to draw a couple cards. Cashes in the plant token. Got one of the counters off of Strangleroot Geist, so that's ready for a sacrifice again if she so chooses. Looks like she has done enough, going to allow Dylan to get that second land.
Yeah, and if Dylan gets an untapped Black Source and tries to Fatal Push here or something like that, Aaron's still going to have an opportunity to use the Yawgmoth if she wants to.
Absolutely. Just going to be tapped Watery Grave, though. Huge advantage to Aaron presently. Dylan going to need some real help to get out of this jam.
So I love these little cards that we see pop up from time to time, adding a little value without being problems. So Kalni Garden is a card that we've seen in the Titan decks from time to time.
Yeah.
We see it here, and it's just like, yeah, this is like, I like it.
Nice little pickup.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a nice get from Dylan. It's that Grafdigger's Cage we talked about. Aaron going to go ahead and get some cards, though. Finds a Bird of Paradise, sacrifices the other Bird of Paradise, takes the counter off, picks up another card. Uno mas.
Yeah, let's keep going.
One more time. Probably stop there. You want to keep your beatdown plan functional.
Yeah, some pressure on the board.
Dylan going to go ahead and fetch. Falls to 13. 2 mana available. Your little Emery action. Keep up Metallic Rebuke. Let's see. It is going to be Emery. 4 cards going to head to the battlefield. Or the graveyard, I'm sorry. That would be really powerful and went to the battlefield, huh?
Now, you're a big foils guy.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
It looks like we accidentally got a card
That's
deep.
it. Someone call a judge.
Don't worry, Dylan has.
Little things like this are just always so awkward.
Yep, we'll get it squared away.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but it's just like... in all of my tournament Magic, every now and then I've dropped a card out of my deck when I've been shuffling, which means every now and then beyond that I've dropped a card out of the opponent's deck when shuffling.
Right.
Which is even more awkward, and it just happens from time to time, and I'm always so embarrassed. But circling back, so you're a foil guy.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about these full art? Do you have a whole bunch of these full art foils?
I do.
Okos.
Yeah.
Emery's.
No, not Emery.
Okay.
I don't know why, but no. No, my full art foils are Oko, Once Upon a Time, Castle Garenbrig, Goose. I am obviously going to take a tremendous bath on my Okos at some point.
The blue castle. No, you're just sitting on those until the end of time, right?
I guess so. They'll never come back, but yeah, I have nothing else to do with them. So Garloff's Messenger going to come down, do a little bit of life loss for Dylan Hand, and further that beatdown plan, which looks pretty good here for Aaron.
Yeah, Dylan's had such a plotting hand here that Aaron's like, all right, I gained a ton of value from Yawgmoth, and now I could just finish off the game by attacking you a bunch of times. And Dylan couldn't even get some value out of this Emery.
You're going to have to play defense. Not what you want to be doing with your Emery. And the squad going to go ahead, rumble in. Looks like we have a guaranteed 5 headed the way of Dylan. But before that, how about a sacrifice of this Birds of Paradise to give Emery a -1/-1 counter?
We're going to discard a card to proliferate.
Yeah, that's going to get the handshake, and that means Aaron Barich takes down Dylan Hand 2-1.